John Marchese. Welcome to the Built for Trust podcast, John. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Nick. Really appreciate you having me.
I've been looking forward to this, this discussion for two reasons. One is that my wife's grandmother's maiden name is Marchese. So, and I have not ran into another Marchese, until you, and she was a wonderful, sweet, adorable, woman. So you have, I have high hopes for you. And,
Great. Well, yeah, adorable, maybe. That's debatable.
Well, adorable could be placed in lots of different, kind of contexts. It doesn't have to be looks. So
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, like the first test was you knew how to pronounce the last name, right? So yeah, oftentimes it's someone who has a relative with a similar name in order for them to pronounce it correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a name part of our family, So, anyway, so I've been really looking forward to you for that, but also because of what you've been able to create with Network to Code. So, let's kind of start, there. But I don't want to jump into the company. I want to give you kind of an opportunity to talk about, how and why you started Network to Code.
Sure.
What was kind of the motivation behind
Sure.
it. And also just as a preamble for everyone, like Network to Code is like really kind of a beloved company within the community. It's like, these guys do they're kind of next generation network operations, and the tools to enable that. So we're really, and network operations is going through a fundamental, transition. So we're going to talk about that, during this. So anyway, so John, really it's, to you, like how and why, to start it. Okay.
Great. I'll certainly give you a background on myself, how I got to Network to Code. I started my career in networking back in the late 1990s. I was actually still in college when I was interning for, at the time, Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, and we were based out of One World Trade Center. And that's when I was first introduced to networking. Excuse me. And it was interesting because I was working on a traffic engineering team within the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey. But there was kind of like a shared responsibility in maintaining the local area networks. And, one of the engineers in our group was in charge of the LAN for that department. So I was there just assisting and learning. Then, the following summer, I worked at Lehman Brothers, which, Lehman Brothers had a great networking team. A lot of folks in the industry came from Lehman Brothers with strong networking experience. And then right out of college, once I graduated, I moved out to San Jose, where I worked with Cisco Systems. I worked for Cisco Systems, and they had sent out a bunch of recent college graduates to go through a 6-month networking training program. And that was just an amazing experience. And they were training us on not only Cisco technologies, but the TCP IP stack and, getting our basic certifications and really enabling us for, the real world and being systems engineers at Cisco. So when I came back to New York, New Jersey, that area in 2000 is really when I first, dove into computer networking.
So what year was that?
Yeah, that was 2000. That was the year 2000.
2000.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. Like I know this is all about you, but I do want to just inject a little bit.
Sure, so absolutely. Feel free.
It's like I started working at Digital Equipment Corporation, so I was kind of a decade ahead of you. And in DEC, I was at an internship program, and it was a 2-year internship program. And for literally about, probably pretty similar, about 6 months of those 2 years was deep diving into networking, so that was really the kind of like, so because we were starting to build local area networks, and routers were VAC switches, at the time.
Yeah.
You probably remember that from Lehman Brothers. We started having the first bridges, come into the marketplace, and so there was all this new fundamental kind of computer networking technology that universities weren't exposed to, and so you needed to kind of train everyone. So
Yeah.
I can totally relate,
Yeah.
and those that was really kind of at the forefront, of kind of building, the economy that we have now, or the kind of the technical underpinnings of the economy that we're all living in.
That's
So
right.
anyway, I
It
digress.
was a great time. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
certainly a great time, and certainly a lot of innovation at the time. I know my early years at Cisco was right when IP telephony was coming out. There was a lot of movement in the firewall space and Wi-Fi. So it was a great time. So I was a systems engineer for about 5 years. I
Hmm.
went out and passed my CCIE exam and lab and was certified in 2004. But I reached a point where, I felt the SE role was a lot about speeds and feeds. It was, the conversations were, what's the backplane of this supervisor, or, throughput and oversubscription. And interestingly enough, I know some of the AI conversations is really bringing back hardware, elements of it,
Hmm.
and some of those speeds and feeds. But I really, really enjoyed it. I had the opportunity to learn a lot, then moved into a management role. But in 2006, I was tapped on the shoulder by the former vice president of sales at Cisco, and he had just recently left to join a startup organization. It was a VAR called Blue Water Communications Group, and they were looking for
Hmm.
someone to build out the engineering organization there. So I made the move to Blue Water, and it was just an absolutely amazing experience working with a lot of veterans in the industry and experienced leaders there. And we grew that company from zero to 200 plus $1 million in sales in just a matter of a few short years. And I grew the engineering organization, and the company ended up being acquired by Presidio, a national solution provider. And
Hmm.
I took on a team in the Northeast area, and we ran pre-sales, architecture, service delivery, some managed services components there. We had a staff augmentation business, and it was just a great experience to grow from this company that was $0 in revenue. Now we're part of a $2 billion plus organization,
Hmm.
and it was just a tremendous experience for me. After 10 years in total between those two organizations, though it was time for me to take a break. My wife was pregnant with our third little one.
Hmm.
And I said, look, let me get my break in now. And we were able to travel a bit and spend time with the little ones. And since then, we had a fourth, so I got my hands full. I think I just love uh, this chaos that surrounds me. But yeah, so we had
Good
a
chaos.
great time. Yeah, we had a great time, traveling with the family. And it allowed me to think about what it was that I wanted to do next.
Hmm.
And I realized that looking back at my career, I had really, really enjoyed working for a startup company, right? Being able to um, solve problems, the way you see fit, right? Just wearing multiple hats, and not just being handed the data sheets that tell you what you need to say or regurgitate, or you had to create them, right? You had to create the story,
Yeah.
create the messaging, solve, you know, different problems on a daily basis. So I really enjoyed that. And that's when I said, okay, let me start talking to some friends who had some small businesses. And Jason Edelman, who had worked for me at my previous employer, he was leading our networking practice. Um, and he had left in 2014 to start Network to Code. And I stayed in touch with Jason. And in 2017 was when I was having conversations with him about the company. And there were a few things that just really, really drew me to Network to Code. You know, the first the first thing was that Jason would constantly refer to community,
Hmm.
and community was new to me at the time, right? Everything had been
Yeah.
proprietary, and but I started just searching and taking a look, and seeing what was out there. And I could really see like this group of passionate folks out there who really wanted to transform the way networks were operated and managed, by leveraging software and leveraging programmability and automation and leveraging open source technologies, and I could just see this momentum building, and this group of passionate individuals, just like evangelizing and preaching it, and that was growing. So that really intrigued me.
Hmm.
The next thing that drew me in was when Jason was talking about his customer list. They were Fortune 500 global organizations, and Network to Code was 5 people at the time.
Hmm.
So that just blew my mind. Like, how is Network to Code, finding these massive companies as customers? And he said, well, that's all through the community, through the
Hmm.
blog posts that were written, through the open source software that was contributed, through the industry events, community events, meetups. A lot of grassroots work, and it was all about the community. So I was excited, and I ended up joining. In January of 2018, Jason wanted to continue to focus on the vision, the technology, our customers, and the community. And I had this experience working at a startup company, where I was able to work with tremendous leaders in all different aspects of the business. So I knew what needed to get done to grow the business, to take it to the next level. Didn't know how to do it, but that's part of the challenge. I would go out and figure it out and find the help that I needed. So that was that took me to Network to Code in 2018, and right away I said the first opportunity we had, the company had primarily, um, or in its early days, Network to Code uh, developed the first 5-day network programmability and automation bootcamp.
Hmm.
So training was a big piece of our business. These large enterprise organizations were looking to Network to Code to help educate them, and
Yeah.
give them some of the foundational skills required for network automation, and net DevOps, um, and so the business was largely around training and enablement, as well as providing services to maybe automate a certain workflow or in their environment, or work with Ansible and develop some modules for newer technologies, or develop playbooks for certain workflows. But there were more one-off engagements.
Yeah.
Um,
I do remember Jason like reaching out to me like years ago, wanting to like do some training over at Onug. I'm not sure why we couldn't kind of connect those dots together. We should kind of take a look at it if it's that's something that you guys are still doing. It's like this is
Absolutely.
a very open community, and that could be really beneficial. But let's focus a little bit,
Yeah.
on. So you mentioned a little bit about customers, investors. Is Network to Code, has that been kind of customer grown, or have you guys raised money to fund the company?
Yeah, we were bootstrapped early on for our first 7 years. Then we ended up partnering with some investors in Guidepost Growth Equity, who were just tremendous partners in the business. And the idea was to really help grow the business, continue to invest in um, product development, R&D. We launched in 2021 our open source network source of truth platform and automation platform called Nautobot. So we
Yeah.
wanted to ensure that we put further investment into the platform. We wanted to invest in go to market. So that partnership has been great for us.
Okay, awesome. All right, very good. Then, kind of like main problem that you're solving, and I think at a very high level, it's really around network operations, and it's how do we automate a lot of the
Yeah.
tedious toil that is bought both part of network operations and security operations. That seems to be like the main focus, where I think you guys focus with the capital N network and small s sec ops. So
Yeah,
So, but
it's
I'll let you talk to it.
it's been a, challenge for many years, and the challenge is just increasing as networks continue to become more and more complex. Whether it be from cloud or mergers and acquisitions, and the human element where operations has been so manual to date, it's really presented challenges where human errors and inconsistency in configuration have created so many challenges in managing and
Although, yeah,
maintaining that network.
the whole configuration change management is like the biggest like sauce of um, either security exposures, threats that accompany or outages, just pure
Yeah,
outages. So yeah, so fixing those are huge, and I forget what the stats are, but they're like really huge. So like 80%, something like that.
yeah, yeah. Human
Are
errors,
those
sure,
problems. So all right, so
sure,
that's a great area to
yeah,
focus in. So if we think about Nautabot, all right, in particular, like what are the three I'm not sure if there are three features or three major attributes to that platform that kind of enable companies to automate more. So maybe when we talk a little bit about the business model, right? So there's some open
sure,
source, there's some community. Obviously you guys you generate revenue as well.
yeah,
So how
yeah,
does like like a JP Morgan Chase or Bank of
yeah,
America, it's like any of the large financials that are really close
yeah,
to the owner community,
sure.
how would they consume, network to code
Sure.
and how they would value that? Okay.
That's a great question. So first and foremost, we are a data-driven network automation solutions provider. We deliver professional services and managed services to deliver these scalable network automation platforms and solutions for our customers. Since we were rooted, as I mentioned, in community, open source, has a close place in our hearts. And open source is just key to our business. When we launched Nautabot, we said we're going to ensure that this is an open source platform that we're going to make available to the entire community. And our goal was to contribute back to the community, as the community has served us since really we started. And we really believe that community is what sparks innovation and change. So we wanted to hold true to our roots and open source Nautabot. And Nautabot, to answer your question, as far as like what are some of the attributes or features that these large enterprise organizations are looking to. We view Nautabot really as both a network source of truth, which is a critical component in any network automation platform, as well as an automation platform that integrates with um, other enterprise systems and technologies to automate workflows in our customers' environments. So first, on the source of truth side of the house, the idea is to have a system that can model your network data and serve as inventory, and by leveraging that data, you can ultimately drive your intended network state through automation. But the first step is to ensure that you have a place to document your network and document that data, and then provide that data for automation purposes. On the automation side of the house, some of the key features, I think, what we've seen over years are certainly compliance, right? Configuration compliance is a
Mm.
challenge as these networks. Uh, we see a lot of technical debt in the networks, and so large enterprise organizations are looking for ways to identify configurations that are out of compliance and bring them back into compliance. So that's certainly a key piece. Also, I'll say inventory management. We see that a lot now. So
Mm.
asset management, right? Being able to track down technology. We had a global bank come to us and say that they had $10 million of unlocated inventory. So they needed help like solving that problem. Where is this
Mm.
inventory? While they were continuing to procure additional hardware, even though they had that same hardware in inventory somewhere, but they just couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So
So do you guys
yeah,
have like a discovery protocol, or is it like do you kind of like how do you kind of discover like all these
yeah.
kind
Well,
of
we would tap
devices that?
into integrate with. We have some ways where we can go out and discover the network that's in production, but we will tap into other technologies as well, other tools that will go out and discover the network, and then we can import that data into Nautirbot. Um, curate that data and model it accordingly. So what's interesting about network to code in our solutions is it's not we don't believe that one tool can solve it all, right? So there are other tools that we will work with. That being said, the flip side of that is these large organizations are trying to consolidate some tools, and some
For
of the tools that
sure.
they
Yeah.
have only may provide two or three features that the customer is leveraging, because that's all they really need. Yet they have to go out and spend money on these
Mm.
tools that may now be outdated. But we can either build that workflow within Nautirbot or integrate with those tools as well. So it
Yeah.
gives us
So
options and flexibility.
So do you guys like have maybe kind of plugins for like Cisco has the Cisco Discovery Protocol, and
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
great for like Cisco products, but you might have lots of other products, in your network. So do you have kind of plugins for each kind of infrastructure vendors
Yeah, we
discovery
have
protocols?
we have a single source of truth application that allows us to integrate and ensure consistency in data between multiple tools that are available. We can certainly run automation via Ansible as an example, Ansible or AWX. Maybe there are
Hmm.
playbooks that are customers that we're building for customers or customers have that we can tie in to Ansible, or we can build within Nautirbot, via our jobs and develop that workflow within Nautirbot. So it really depends on the understanding the customer's workflow. Which is one of the big challenges that companies have had, right? They're looking at it from a tools perspective versus really diving into their workflows to understand how they can best automate that workflow. So oftentimes you'll see companies try to fit a workflow into what the tool provides versus fit their tool into the workflow that they have within their environment. So we like to take a workflow centric approach to our engagements.
Okay. So not about the way that I'm kind of like picking up from how you're describing it is that it does a lot of ingesting, to discover the overall network topology and the devices that are there. Kind of you build a database,
Mm-hmm.
associated with that. Then there are kind of tools that allow you to kind of look at configuration, change management, or I guess there's very different workflows.
A lot of
And so
workflows.
tools for those particular workflows. And then you can start to automate that. So it's like, okay, first let's understand what the overall network configuration is and what the devices are in the network. So you got a kind of a snapshot of like the existing plan,
Yeah.
of what you have, and then there are tools that you can bring to bear to help automate. And so I think and some tools might transcend multiple workflows.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that so is that basically it? I can see that as being
Yeah.
extremely useful for network operations engineers. It's like, all right, and finally I have a picture and a view of what my entire network is. Can you guys like simulate since you have that data now? Can you start to like simulate changes and what the behavior of that system might be with those
Yeah.
changes?
So first, that's spot on. We call the workflows applications that we develop. We develop applications for common use cases, and we open source them as well. So the common use cases like configuration, compliance, or circuit management, or remediation or provisioning, right? That's all available within applications that we develop. But the platform also allows our customers to develop custom applications for their specific needs. And if there are some integration points where customers can integrate with an Autobot into their other tool sets or applications that they may have in their environment, to really create the single source of truth platform. As far as change management, and we model the configuration of the intended state in our environment, so we can do a lot of compare and contrast on what is happening within the operational state, how the network is actually configured, right, versus how it should be configured. And that's kind of where we will do the pre-post change validations to see, okay, if we made the change, are we seeing the results that we expect? If not, we can revert back. And part of that goes to the DevOps mentality that we have, right? This is net DevOps, our our approach to developing network automation. So that's a key piece, to really incorporate version control and testing and deployment, CI/CD pipelines. So that's kind of all part of like our approach to building network automation solutions for our customers.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. Super. We've been always trying to move networking away from kind of CLI and specialized, skill sets into more general purpose skill sets, and especially trying to keep up with the how fast developers move in the development of new applications. So kind of mapping it into kind of DevOps, kind of workflows and DevOps culture. That's probably a big part of like why you guys have been so successful. So I
Absolutely. If
think
you
that
think about Nick, like just think about the innovation that's happened on the application development side of the house over the years, right? DevOps has been around for 15, 20
about
years
12 years,
or so.
about
But
12.
that, yeah, 12. Okay, 12 years. So but just the innovation, right? Since then, has been tremendous about application development, application modernization with cloud containers, and so much
Yeah.
technology and innovation has happened because of the agility and because of this new way of operating. And we think the same holds true from the networking side of the house. But the network side of the house, quite frankly, has really lagged in innovation over the years. And
Yeah, it's we've been really slow because I think there's a whole bunch of reasons, in there, and one of them I think is it goes back to like what we were talking about very early on. It's like we both went through these training programs, to get up to speed on this new technology. I don't think much of that happens anymore. It's like I'm not sure where a lot of new people coming into this industry get trained. They might go CCIE and and try to get certifications. That's probably one major way. But I think our industry, kind of the networking industry, is very much an older generation industry, and I think it's I'm hopeful that like the tools that you guys are providing and that others are providing are more suitable to the ways that kind of newer, younger engineers want to run their operations. So
yeah,
you know, um, so I think I want to kind of move us along to kind of start thinking about kind of AI, since we started talking a little bit about the change management, almost like a digital twin kind of concept there. So you guys you're collecting a huge amount of data. There you have these applications. Um, there's We've been doing a lot of discussions, during the in the Built for Trust podcast around how once AI starts to make its way into the protocol sets and into the products, then we're going to start to see very different kinds of products like AI routers and AI switches and AI firewalls and IPSs and IDSs and so forth and so on. How does this change whether it changes your market, your
mhm,
company? What's your kind of like, how are you thinking about how AI is going to impact
mhm,
network to code and also, NetOps in general?
yeah. Um, Well, great question. First I'll go back to just touch on open source, and one of the reasons why we are you know, advocates of leveraging open source is um, it gives the customer the flexibility and control that they need for their environment. And that's a key piece, right? And what we do is, as you're aware, there is a skill set required, right? It's that hybrid DevOps slash software engineer and the networking engineer skill sets, that are often lacking within some organizations, right? To truly take advantage of the benefits around network automation and a net DevOps philosophy or mindset, you need those skill sets. But it's still complex to some of the traditional network engineers that are out there, right? And I do believe that all network engineers should have just the foundational knowledge. You don't need to be a developer, but the foundational knowledge around DevOps and some basic scripting. I think that is just very, very beneficial to network engineers. But AI in general is, in our mind, going to allow for better adoption of this technology, and without compromising, right? So simplifying the use of network automation without compromising the flexibility, the control that it provides for customers. So I think we're only going to see an accelerated adoption of network automation and net DevOps in the future with AI. Now, the one aspect in basically the AI maturity model, where we are early on in its stages, is really making usability solutions, right? Like allowing users to leverage their tools and data and information that is gathered and collected. And since we build our solutions around a network source of truth and data, AI will actually have access to that data to solve problems. And then in the future, as all of these networking vendors and really just any IT infrastructure vendor incorporate AI into their platforms, into their technology, the same is going to hold true, right? Like when you look at automation from a holistic standpoint, there's going to be multiple vendors, there's going to be multiple types of devices in there. Yet, the requirements to interact with these components are still going to be there. So that's where network automation can really stitch that all together.
That could be an interesting market for you guys, too, because you're right. Every vendor is going to have their own version of AI, so you're going to have multiple AIs based upon vendors. So we're going to have a multi-vendor AI problem, in the pretty short order. So having like a federated AI, maybe that's a kind of a role that you guys can play there. It's that, you know, you so it's like a way in which the AIs can communicate based
Mm-hmm.
upon a common source of truth. And I totally buy what you're saying. Whenever, I know you said it a few times, network, source of truth. I think the only true source of truth within compute infrastructure within enterprises really comes from the network. So I think that's a really great place, for you guys to be. So I think that could be one role. The other thing too, and I'm not sure how much you guys, and maybe you've already been thinking about this, is that, I'm kind of thinking of three different entities. I'm kind of thinking of kind of AI, and especially its ability to kind of write code. And then there's policy management, so you set business priorities and initiatives, and then you kind of to put that into code. So you have policy as code
Mm-hmm.
that enforces the policies that you have, and it could be rules, identities, for individuals, access, what kind of resources they access, and so forth. So, what are those policies? And then you have all the data that you all have.
Mm-hmm.
So if there are changes that need to be made to the infrastructure, that maybe is because of policy, then you can you can imagine, that that code, those changes could be written by an AI,
Hmm.
and then they can leverage, your product, to troubleshoot or to basically simulate what does that look like, and then get
Hmm.
that confirmation that okay, that this kind of configuration change, we're still going to stay within compliance, and also we're going to deliver on the policy that has been required. So you can kind of see how there's a kind of a triangle, of systems there that you guys are kind of right in the middle of that kind of data pipeline and configuration
Yeah,
pipeline.
absolutely, right. And just to be able to write software artifacts, leveraging AI, right, applying that to some change management process um, and policy is going to be key, right? And AI is really going to tie a lot of that together. So, first and foremost, just think that data is the most important aspect, right? Whether we're talking AI, whether we're talking network automation. So, ensuring you have clean, accurate, and complete data is a critical first step in anything that we're looking to do in the future.
Yeah. So if we kind of like take, a magic wand and say, okay, all this stuff is really going to work out, it's like, we're going to see a world where we can have automation at a pretty big scale within networks, and we need them because there's like the last time we looked at this kind of job request or job recs in security engineers, about 750,000 to a million of them worldwide,
Hmm.
open recs. And network engineers aren't too far below that number. So the only way that's going to get solved, it's not going to be, we're not going to train all these people. What we do need though is automation. So maybe like, what do you kind of see in the next like 3 to 5 years? What does a typical network operations center look like?
Hmm.
In the next couple of years, like 3 years and to 5 years.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. I think that sometimes it's easier to see what the panacea is, and like thinking AI long term, and right, you have a self-operating network, right? But it's a lot harder to see, well, how do you get there? And we are a very, very long way away from that in all reality. But in the 3 to 5 year mark, I think network operations is going to be a little bit more on operating the network automation platform, and leveraging the AI tool sets to gather all the telemetry data and observability, and applying that to policies that are defined by the IT organization or security organization. And you'll see Network Operations Center focus a little bit more on the automation platform itself to drive those changes to really drive the incident response and root cause analysis, tying in all of these tools that are available, and tying in some of the new AI technologies that we're going to see at the time to correlate all of that data. So the shift in mindset is going to be, all right, how do we operate the network from an automation mindset, right? And not like on a device. Okay, where is that issue? Let me log into that device and fix it. It's going to be, what is the platform telling me? What changes do I have to make to the platform to push out to my network? So I think it's going to be a mindset shift, and you'll certainly see security teams come together with networking teams, and they'll have this AI skill set and technology available to them. But you'll see much more unified approach, but they're going to focus more on a platform centered approach, like view the platform and let the platform address the network.
okay. So maybe just a couple quick things. I think we're probably getting close to time. Um, yeah, have you collected any data around what does on average, and we don't need to do standard deviations or anything like that, but like on average, how many devices a network engineer kind of manages in a large organization?
Hmm. I know some organizations that a network engineer may manage, 1,000 devices per engineer, and then others, less that may have 100,000 network devices. Um, but I would say a couple of hundred network devices that folks are managing, and that's just kind of a ballpark number.
Yeah, like we actually used to collect this data, within the owner. Again, I think our average is about 1,200. So 1,200 devices per network engineer. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, I'd like to see that increase by order of magnitude. I think
It
that's
should.
when we really
It should.
know, that we are really automating. So I think the thing is that we're not going to replace, network engineers, nor do we want to, but but also it's like, and we see this thinking systemically all across various different industries, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer, physician, what have you, is that if you can take someone with a relatively lower skill set and then give them AI tools so that they can now function as like a senior level person, then you've just upped the intelligence of your organization, and you've upped the kind of impact that that individual, can have. And that's one way to really kind of close that gap.
Hmm.
Between not having enough people out there to fill out the jobs that all this work needs to get done. So I think that, to me, it's like a relatively, kind of smaller growth rate in terms of the number of people we actually need, in the industry to do this, to manage the infrastructure. We're still going to need people. We always will. But to really make the folks who are there much more productive.
Yeah.
Then I think a way to manage that, or one way to kind of view that is, all right, well, how many devices can they manage? The one thing we used to compare this to is like the hyperscale companies. Like you would have a system engineer that might be able to manage like 100,000 systems, sometimes even more. And we were like, God, a network engineer is doing 1,200, and you got a system engineer that's managing 100,000 systems plus, and that's because the tool set different was totally well, the tool sets are totally different. You
Hmm.
had a lot more automation on the server side of things than you did on the networking side. So anyway, I'm really bullish for what you guys do, John. And it's like you're addressing a big need in the industry, and also now with the advent of AI tools, it's really up to you guys to figure out how to integrate that to even make your product even more potent.
Oh yeah, it's actively being developed as we speak right now. So really excited about it, Nick. I really appreciate it. And just one thing
Yeah.
before we head off, but really appreciate the community that you fostered in Ono throughout the years. It's tremendous. You
Uh,
have a tremendous following, and from uh, customers to vendors. It's just a thriving community. So nicely done.
well, thank
Yeah.
you, John. That means a lot. That has a lot of weight, to it. And just to reciprocate, it's like we love Network to Code. Like you guys are always do such a stellar job, at every one of the meetings or the conferences that we put together. Like you bring a lot of folks into the community. You always have a great presence. You always bring it in terms of the demos. Um, and you're right in the sweet spot, as well, where everyone wants to know. And so I think our pivot, this year to the AI networking summit was really, um, it might not, it may seem now, 2020 hindsight, I was like, oh, of course, that was right. But like in mid 2023, it wasn't, you know.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So anyway, I want to congratulate my staff, for doing such a great job.
Great. Well, we look forward to New York.
Awesome, great, John. Thank you so much. A real pleasure. Thanks for this time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.